They say God lives in the details, but in my line of work, God lives in the sub-zero hum of a Liebert cooling unit keeping 10,000 terabytes of classified military data from melting through the floor. I'm Karen. Yeah, I know, laugh it up. Go ahead and picture a middle-aged woman screaming at a barista because the soy milk frothed wrong. Get that image out of your head right now. That's not me. I'm the reason your social security number isn't currently being auctioned off on a Russian dark web forum for the price of a chicken. I'm the reason the guidance systems for things that go boom in the desert actually hit the sand and not a school bus. For 10 years, I was the director of security operations for a hybrid private defense contractor that I'm not going to name because I signed NDAs that are thicker than a Bible and carry heavier penalties than eternal damnation. I managed 10 data centers spread across the jagged spine of the Rockies. These weren't your average server farms hosting cat videos and conspiracy theories. These were Fort Knox for digital ghosts. We held contracts with the Department of Defense, DoD. The kind of contracts that don't have logos, just alphanumeric codes and clearance levels that require a blood sample to look at. I loved the cold. My office was kept at a brisk 64 degrees, matching the ambient temperature of the server floors. I didn't do family photos on the desk. I didn't do hang in their cat posters. My walls were lined with monitors displaying thermal heat maps, packet traffic logs, and live feeds of the biometric airlocks. That was my family. That was my garden. I pruned the weak code, watered the firewalls with encryption updates, and ripped out the weeds, usually incompetence, by the root. It was a Tuesday when the first crack in the hull appeared. I was down on the floor of Sector 4, my favorite sector because the acoustics were perfect. The fans hummed in a B-flat drone that quieted the rage in my head. I was watching a junior tech, a kid named Kevin who looked like he was 12 and smelled like desperation and energy drinks, trying to hot swap a drive on a Tier 1 rack. Kevin, I said, my voice doesn't echo in there. The soundproofing eats it. It just appears inside your head. He jumped, nearly dropping a drive worth more than his Honda Civic. Jesus, Karen, you scared me. If you drop that drive, Kevin, you won't have to worry about me scaring you. You'll have to worry about the guys in the suits who don't smile, I said, walking over and taking the drive from his shaking hands. You didn't ground yourself. I can see the static jumping off your fleece vest from here. Do you want to fry a circuit linked to a satellite uplink? Because that's how you get sent to a place where the sun doesn't shine, and I don't mean Seattle. I slotted the drive in with a satisfying click. Green lights flickered. Dopamine hit my brain. Order restored. Speaking of restoring order, if you're into stories where competent people get screwed over by corporate idiots and then watch the world burn, go ahead and hit subscribe button or drop a like. It fuels my cold, dead heart to know I'm not screaming into the void alone. Anyway, back to the disaster. I walked back to the elevator, my heels clicking on the anti-static tiles like a countdown timer. The issue wasn't Kevin. Kevin was teachable. The issue was upstairs. The 10th floor. The executive suite. For the last decade, I had kept the Pentagon from kicking down our doors by running a ship so tight it squeaked. But the old CEO, a man who actually understood that security meant keeping secrets and not feeling safe, had retired. Enter the new regime. The new CEO was a guy named Preston. Preston wore loafers without socks and had teeth so white they looked like they were radioactive. He was all about disruption and synergy, and other words that mean absolutely nothing when a Chinese botnet is hammering your firewall at 3 o'clock a.m. Preston didn't care about the due specs. He cared about the stock price and the company culture. I stepped into the elevator and swiped my badge. The light turned green. I had access to everything. Every door, every file, every camera. I knew who was stealing lunches, marketing, who was sleeping with the intern, HR, ironically, and who was actually doing work, me and about 3 guys in the basement. When the doors opened on the executive floor, the air changed. It was warmer. It smelled like lavender and expensive coffee. It smelled like weakness. I walked past the collaboration pods, bean-bag chairs where 20-somethings sat with laptops, ideating. I had a meeting with Preston. He had sent me an invite titled Touchbase, Vision and Vibes. I hated the word vibes. You can't encrypt a vibe. You can't firewall a vibe. A vibe is just a vulnerability with a spray tan. I walked into his office. It was all glass, no privacy. A security nightmare. Sitting there was Preston, and next to him was his daughter, Brittany. Brittany was 24, had a degree in media studies from a college that probably accepts crayon drawings as tuition payment, had recently been appointed VP of Brand Voice. And next to her was him, the catalyst, the herald of the apocalypse. He was wearing a hoodie that cost $600 and looked like it had been chewed by a rat. He was scrolling on his phone, legs draped over the arm of a leather chair. Karen, Preston beamed, standing up. Come in, we were just talking about you. Director, I corrected, sitting down without shaking his hand. Director of Security Operations. What's the emergency, Preston? Is the Halon system leaking again? No, nothing like that, Preston laughed, waving his hand as if dismissing a gnat. We're pivoting, Karen. We're moving into a new era. The defense stuff. It's great, stable revenue, sure, but it's so cold, so rigid. We want to humanize our data. I stared at him. Humanize the data. Preston, we host targeting telemetry. You don't want that humanized. We want it accurate and dead silent. See, Brittany chimed in, pointing a manicured finger at me. That's exactly the energy we need to shift. It's so gatekeeper why. It's literally a gate, Brittany. That is my job. I keep the gate, I said, my voice flat. Karen, Preston said, his smile tightening. I'd like you to meet Chase. Chase is Brittany's cousin. He's joining us as the new chief of cyberculture and data innovation. Chase looked up from his phone. He had eyes that said absolutely nothing was happening behind them. Sup, he said. Heard you run a tight ship. We're gonna loosen it up, make it flow, like water. Water, I said, destroys servers. Chase. Metaphorically, Chase smirked. I've got some sick ideas for an open source dashboard. Democratize the access. Let the clients really feel their data. My heart rate slowed down. That happens when I sense a threat. It's a combat response. Preston, I said, turning to the CEO. Does Chase have a clearance? Has he been vetted by the Bureau? Because if he touches a Tier 1 terminal, we are in violation of Federal Statute 18 U.S.C. Section 1030. Preston sighed. Karen, you're always so technical. Chase is a digital native. He built a Discord server with 10,000 members. He knows tech. He got banned from Discord for hate speech. Brittany giggled. It was iconic. I stood up. I knew what was coming. I could smell the ozone before the lightning struck. You're firing me, I said. It wasn't a question. Transitioning, Preston corrected. We're transitioning you. We feel the company needs a fresh face, someone who understands the optics of the modern cloud. You're replacing a 20-year veteran and a former NSA analyst with a Discord mod, I summarized. He's chief of cyberculture, Brittany insisted. I looked at Chase. He was picking his nose. Subtly. He thought, but I have 4K cameras in my brain. Okay, I said. I assume you have the paperwork? HR has it, Preston said, looking relieved I wasn't screaming, effective immediately. We'll need your badge. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the keycard that controlled the flow of information for half the western seaboard and set it on the glass table. It made a sharp clack. Good luck, Preston, I said. You're going to need it. We make our own luck, Chase said. Finally sitting up, and we make our own content. I didn't say another word. I turned around and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't flip a desk. I walked with the steady, rhythmic pace of a woman who knows exactly where the bodies are buried because she dug the graves. They thought they were firing a stumbling block. They didn't realize they were pulling the control rod out of a nuclear reactor. I walked back to the elevator. The vibe in the hallway felt different now. It felt like a funeral, not mine, theirs. I didn't leave immediately. Technically, I had 2 hours to collect my personal effects, which is corporate speak for we're watching you to make sure you don't steal a stapler. An HR rep named Tiffany, who looked like she was 12 and was clearly terrified of me, hovered by my office door while I packed. There wasn't much to pack. A spare sweater, a bottle of Excedrin, my certification plaques, which were heavy enough to bludgeon a man to death. I placed them gently into a cardboard box. While I was clearing out my desk, the announcement went out. It wasn't an email. Oh no, that would be too old school. It was a live stream notification that pinged every phone in the building, including mine, which hadn't been wiped yet. Mandatory town hall, new era, new vibes, meet Chase. I could see the main floor from my office window, a glass-walled fishbowl overlooking the server operations center. Employees were gathering down there, looking confused. The serious engineers, the guys with graying beards and coffee stains on their shirts, looked like they were marching to the gallows. The marketing team looked thrilled. I decided to watch. I needed to see the execution. Preston took the stage, holding a microphone like he was a stand-up comic. Hey everyone, gather round, gather round. Big energy today. Huge energy? The applause was scattered, polite. We've made a tough decision today, Preston said, his face doing that fake sad thing politicians do. Karen has decided to pursue other opportunities. We thank her for her service, but we realize that to get to the next level, to the moon, we need to shed the old skin. We need to be agile. We need to be human. He swept his arm out. Please welcome your new chief of cyberculture and data innovation. Chase. Chase jogged onto the stage. He was wearing sunglasses, indoors in a secure facility. He grabbed the mic. Yo, what's up, DataFam? Chase yelled. I physically winced. DataFam. I felt a part of my soul wither and die. Look, Chase said, pacing the stage, I know things have been tight around here. Strict, boring. I heard you guys have to swipe a badge just to take a piss. He laughed. We're changing that. Data wants to be free, right? We're going to open up the API. We're going to stream our uptime stats on Twitch. We're going to put RGB lighting on the server racks because why should the machines be boring? I looked down at the server floor. I saw my lead network architect, a guy named David who had served in the Signal Corps, put his face in his hands. And hey, Chase continued, I know some of you are worried about security. Bro, security is a mindset. It's not a firewall. It's a community. If we trust each other. The hackers can't get in. It's about positive vibes blocking negative packets. Positive vibes blocking negative packets, I whispered to myself. It was the stupidest sentence I had ever heard in the English language. It was so stupid it was almost art. Tiffany, the HR girl, coughed. Karen, are you almost done? Just about, I said. I picked up a thick black binder from the bottom drawer. It was 3 inches thick. Spine simply said, Tier 1 Protocols Emergency Failsafes. I held it in my hands. This binder contained the manual override codes, the contact numbers for the Pentagon liaison, the cascading encryption keys, and the strict chain of custody procedures required by federal law. It was the Bible of that building. I looked at the binder. Then I looked at Chase down on the stage, who was currently demonstrating a tick-tock dance he called the packet loss. I had a choice. I could give this binder to Chase. I could walk down there, interrupt his little show, and explain the gravity of the national security infrastructure he was currently grinding his hips on. I could try to teach him. But then I remembered Preston's smile. I remembered Gatekeeper Y. I remembered positive vibes. If I gave them the binder, they wouldn't read it. They would throw it in a recycling bin because it wasn't a PDF with embedded GIFs. I put the binder in my box. Is that personal property? Tiffany asked, eyeing the binder. It's my personal notes, I lied, nothing proprietary, just memories. Okay, she squeaked. I finished packing. I took the box. I walked out of the office that had been my cockpit for a decade. As I passed the server room, I saw Chase down there now, slapping high fives with the confused engineers. He was touching things. He was leaning against a rack of blades that processed real-time troop movements in the Middle East. I felt a surge of nausea, followed by a cold, calming wave of certainty. They had no idea what they had done. They thought they had just fired a grumpy middle manager. They didn't realize they had just fired the brakes on a freight train headed for a cliff. I walked to the parking lot. My Ford F-150 was waiting. It was a practical truck, reliable. I put the box in the passenger seat. I patted the binder. Don't worry, I told it. They'll miss you soon enough. I started the engine. It roared to life. I lit a metaphorical cigarette I quit 10 years ago, but in my soul I was lighting a Marlboro Red and inhaling the burning tobacco of pure, unadulterated spite. I drove out of the lot, checking my rearview mirror. The building gleamed in the Colorado sun. It looked peaceful. It looked secure. For now, I gave it a week. Maybe 2. Entropy is a patient mistress, but incompetence is a speedrunner. Let me be crystal clear about something. I did not sabotage the system. I didn't plant a logic bomb. I didn't write a script to delete the databases at midnight. I am a professional, and more importantly, I am a patriot. Sabotage is a felony. Treason is a capital offense. I wasn't going to prison for these clowns. I simply stopped holding the ceiling up. See, the systems I built were designed to be paranoid. They operated on a zero-trust model. They didn't trust the internet. They didn't trust the internal network. And they definitely didn't trust a 20-something wearing a Supreme hoodie. The core of our DoD compliance was something called the heartbeat handshake. Every 72 hours, the Tier 1 servers required a manual authentication token. This token had to be generated by a certified security officer, me, using a specific RSA key on a specific air-gapped terminal. If the heartbeat wasn't received, the system assumed the facility had been compromised. It assumed the building had been overrun by hostiles. So, what does the system do in that scenario? It doesn't explode. It locks down. It enters turtle mode. It severs all external connections, encrypts the local drives with a 4096-bit key that would take a supercomputer a billion years to crack, and sends a silent distress signal to the Pentagon. Chase didn't know about the heartbeat. Why would he? He was too busy setting up a chill-out zone in the server room. I drove home to my cabin. I live about 40 miles out of town up in the foothills, no neighbors, just pine trees and spotty cell service, which is how I like it. I unpacked my box. I put my plaques on the mantle. I put the binder in my safe, right next to my birth certificate and my grandfather's service pistol. Then I made tea, Earl Grey, hot, and I sat on my porch and waited. The first 24 hours were quiet. I imagined Chase was busy onboarding, which probably involved finding out where the vending machines were and setting up his ring light. My phone buzzed. It was David, the lead network architect. David, Karen, are you serious? Me? As a heart attack, Dave, I'm out. David, this guy is a moron. He just asked me if we can route the cooling system exhaust to heat the break room floor because his feet get cold. Me, don't do that, Dave. Moisture buildup. David, I know, I told him. He said I was being negative energy. Karen, he's asking for the admin passwords, the root access. I sipped my tea. The sun was setting, painting the mountains in hues of purple and gold. It was beautiful. Me, do not give him root, Dave. You know the protocol. If he's not on the authorized personnel list, Apple, giving him root is a breach of contract. David, I told him that. He said he's the chief of cyberculture and he outranks the list. He's threatening to fire me. Me, let him. If he fires you, you get severance. If you give him the codes and the feds find out, you get Leavenworth. David, God help us. I put the phone down. I could feel the tension radiating off the device. It was starting. Chase was hitting the first wall, permission structure. In his world, if you bought the software, you owned it. In my world, nobody owns the software. The software owns you. I checked my watch. It had been 30 hours since I generated the last heartbeat token. That meant they had 42 hours left before the system started asking questions. I decided to do some gardening. I have a nice patch of tomatoes. Weeding is therapeutic. You pull the invader out, the soil breathes. The plant thrives, it's simple, binary. Alive or dead, in or out. As I was pulling a stubborn dandelion, I thought about the reforms Preston was probably bragging about to the board right now. Streamlined efficiency, he'd say, new energetic leadership. They were likely celebrating my departure. Maybe they even had a cake, good riddance to the buskill. I ripped the dandelion out, roots and all. Dirt scattered across my gloves. The thing about cyberculture is that it doesn't account for the physical reality of heat and electricity. Chase was about to learn that you can't influence a circuit breaker. You can't gaslight a firewall. My phone buzzed again. A notification from LinkedIn. Chase keeps viewing your profile. I laughed. A dry, rasping sound that startled a nearby squirrel. He was looking for credentials. He was looking for the keys. He probably realized that half the admin panels were grayed out and he couldn't figure out why. He wouldn't find the answer on LinkedIn. The answer was in a binder, in a safe, in a cabin he didn't know existed. The sun dipped below the horizon. The air grew cold. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around myself. Tick-tock, Chase. Tick-tock. The texts from the inside started coming in faster, like distress signals from a sinking submarine. David, 48 hours since departure. He's bringing in outside contractors. Consultants he knows from his crypto mining days. They're walking around the server floor with laptops. Unvetted laptops, Karen. They're plugging into the diagnostic ports. I read the text and felt a spike of genuine fear. Not for my job, that was gone, but for the data. Plugging an unverified laptop into a Tier 1 diagnostic port is like having unprotected intimacy in a plague ward. It's suicidal. Me, log it, Dave, document everything. Time, date, MAC addresses if you can get them. Don't interfere, just witness. I wasn't just being petty, I was building a case file. Because when the Inquisition came, and it was coming, I needed to make sure the blast radius didn't hit the good people like David. By Friday afternoon, the 72-hour heartbeat window was closing. I was sitting at my kitchen table, cleaning my grandfather's service pistol. It's a rhythmic process. Disassemble, clean, oil, reassemble. Click, slide, snap. My laptop was open to the public-facing status page of the company's network. Green lights across the board, for now. Then, a new notification. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a phone call. The caller ID said unknown. I let it ring twice, then I picked up. This is Karen. Karen, it's Preston. The CEO's voice was tight, strained. The vibes were clearly not immaculate. Preston, I said, continuing to wipe the slide of the pistol with a rag. To what do I owe the pleasure? I thought we had transitioned. Look, we're having a small technical hiccup, he said. He sounded like he was trying to smile through the phone. Chase is adjusting to the systems. He's asking for the master override password for the legacy containment protocol. The legacy containment protocol? I asked, feigning ignorance. You mean the heartbeat? Yes, that, the heartbeat thingy. It's flashing red on the main board. It's annoying everyone. It's killing the mood. Chase says it's just a legacy glitch you left behind. It's not a glitch, Preston. It's a dead man's switch. It ensures that a certified officer is at the helm. Right, Preston said, impatient. Well, Chase is the officer now, so just give me the code, I'll pass it to him, and we can all move on. We'll pay you a consulting fee. $500. I almost dropped the gun slide. $500? Preston, that system protects national security assets. And you want me to give the nuclear codes to a kid who got fired from Discord over the phone for $500? Karen, don't be difficult. Just give us the code. I can't, I said. The code changes every time it's used. It's generated by a token that is currently in a safe. A safe that belongs to the director of security. So where's the token? I turned it in, I said. In the box with my badge. There was silence on the line. We threw the box out. Chase said it was negative artifacts. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. You threw away the RSA token? The hardware key? It looked like a Tamagotchi, Preston yelled. How were we supposed to know? Then you have a problem, Preston, because without that token, you can't satisfy the heartbeat. And if you don't satisfy the heartbeat I checked my watch. 4 hours, the system goes into lockdown. Well, turn it off, remotely. I don't have remote access, Preston. You revoked it, remember? Fresh face. New era. Chase says he can bypass it, Preston threatened. He says he can rewrite the kernel to ignore the check. My blood ran cold. Preston, listen to me very carefully. If Chase attempts to rewrite the kernel on a live DoD server, the intrusion detection system will interpret that as a hostile foreign attack. It won't just lock down, it will scorch the earth. You're just trying to scare us, Preston scoffed. You want your job back. Well, it's not happening. Chase is a wizard. He'll fix your mess. Click. He hung up. I sat there in the silence of my cabin. A wizard. He called him a wizard. I picked up my phone and texted David. Me, get out of the building. Now, tell the team to leave. Pull the fire alarm if you have to. Just get out. David, why? What's happening? Me, Chase is going to try to patch the kernel. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. David, I'm leaving, taking the team to the bar across the street. Me, good choice. Order a pitcher. Put it on my tab. I closed my laptop. I didn't need to watch the status page anymore. I knew what was going to happen. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You don't need to see the impact to know the glass is going to break. I went to the fridge and opened a bottle of white wine. I'm not a heavy drinker, but tonight felt like a special occasion. Tonight was the night the music died. The sun went down. The moon came up. The coyotes started howling. At 9 o'clock p.m., my phone rang. It wasn't Preston. It wasn't David. The caller ID was blank, just a flat line. I answered on the first ring. Director Karen redacted speaking. Karen, the voice was gravel and old bourbon. It was General Miller. He wasn't technically a general anymore. He was a consultant for the Pentagon, which meant he had more power than a general and answered to fewer people. We had worked together on the initial site architecture 5 years ago. General, I said, how's the hip? Hip is fine, the network is not. We just lost the heartbeat on cluster 4 through 9. We're seeing a massive encryption event. Are you under attack? I don't know, sir, I said, sipping my wine. I don't work there anymore. There was a pause, a long, heavy pause. Say again, I was relieved of command on Tuesday. New management, cultural shift. They wanted to go in a more vibe-based direction. Vibe-based? Miller repeated the word as if it were a foreign contagion. Karen, who is manning the helm, a young gentleman named Chase. His previous experience includes running a Discord server and making TikToks about crypto. You are shitting me. I wish I was, sir. They threw out the RSA keys. They ignored the handover protocols. And about 4 hours ago, the CEO told me this Chase was going to attempt to rewrite the kernel to bypass the heartbeat check. Rewrite the kernel? Miller's voice dropped an octave. On a live Tier 1 node. Yes, sir, that triggers the counterintuition protocol alpha. I know, sir, it treats the facility as hostile territory. I know, sir, it dumps the keys and severs the trunk line. I warned them, sir. I could hear Miller lighting a cigar on the other end. I heard the click hiss of Zippo. Karen, are you secure? I'm at my residence. Secure line, stay there. Do not, I repeat, do not contact the company. If they call you, you answer, but you admit nothing. You offer no help. You are a civilian now. Let them hang themselves. Understood. I'm initiating a level 4 audit. We're going to see what this Chase is made of. Spoiler alert, I think he's made of shit. Sir, one request, I said. My team, the engineers, David and the crew, they're good people. They tried to stop it. I ordered them to evacuate before Chase touched the kernel. Noted, we'll keep the collateral damage to the executive suite. The line went dead. I looked at my phone. The screen was dark. This was it. The machine had started. The DoD doesn't move fast usually. But when you mess with their data, when you trigger an automated lockdown that mimics a cyber-terrorist attack, they move faster than light. I checked Twitter. I couldn't help myself. Chase had posted a tweet 2 hours ago. At Chase Cyber King, late night grind, rewriting some legacy spaghetti code to free the data. Old guard didn't know how to optimize. About to 10x the throughput. Hash data life hash hustle hash cybersecurity attached was a photo. A selfie, him giving a thumbs up in front of a terminal screen. I zoomed in on the screen behind him. It was red. It was a command prompt. He had typed sudo rm rf/var/lib/security/heartbeat. He had tried to delete the security daemon. I laughed. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my wine. He didn't 10x the throughput. He 0x said the existence of the company. I went to bed. I slept like a baby. I slept the sleep of the righteous. I woke up to the smell of pine needles and the sound of my phone vibrating off the nightstand. It was 7 o'clock a.m. I had 42 missed calls, 30 from Preston, 10 from Brittany, 2 from Chase. I ignored them all. I made coffee. I put on my robe. I sat on my deck and watched the mist rise off the mountains. Then, I opened my laptop. The internet was buzzing. Not the mainstream news yet, they're slow, but the tech sector was on fire. Reddit sysadmin threads were speculating about a massive outage at my former employer. User 492, did redacted just drop off the map? I'm getting 0 ping from their entire block range. User 88, yeah, BGP routes are withdrawn. It's like they cease to exist. And then, I saw it. The cherry on top of the sundae of stupidity. Chase was live. He was streaming on Twitch from the server room. The title of the stream was Crisis Management Earl, Saving the Data from the Haters. I clicked the link. There he was. He looked sweaty. His hoodie was stained. He was holding a Red Bull. Yo chat, what is up? Chase was saying, pacing back and forth in front of the lockdown server racks. The lights in the room were flashing red. Physical alarm indicator for a Tier 1 breach. So, we hit a little snag. The legacy code was way more borked than we thought, total spaghetti. The previous director, Karen, Total Boomer Energy by the way, left us with some kind of logic bomb. I took a sip of coffee. Slander, I whispered. Add it to the lawsuit. But don't worry, Chase continued, pointing the camera at a rack of servers that contained biometric data for Special Forces operatives. We're doing a hard reset. I've got my boys trying to physically bypass the locks. The camera panned over to 2 guys in t-shirts trying to pry open a server cage with a screwdriver. My jaw dropped. They were physically breaking into a secure rack. Stop, I said to the screen. You idiots. The racks have tamper sensors. If you pop that door, it dumps the liquid nitrogen fire suppression. As if on cue, a hiss erupted on the stream. White gas blasted out of the rack, engulfing the 2 consultants. Whoa, Chase yelled, coughing. Okay, minor setback. The system is fighting back. It's like Skynet in here, chat. He turned the camera back to himself. But look, I want to show you guys what we're dealing with. Look at this interface. It's archaic. He pointed the camera at a monitor. It was the main diagnostic terminal. On the screen was a flashing red box, unauthorized access detected, IP traced. Department of Defense Protocol 99 initiated. And below that, clearly visible in 1080p resolution, were the routing numbers for a classified subnet. You see this? Chase said, zooming in on the classified numbers. This is the kind of bloat we're trying to cut. He just broadcasted classified routing info to 3,000 people on Twitch. Oh my god, I said. The chat was going wild. Sniper X, dude, is that a DOD? IP block. L33T hacks. LOL, he just leaked the gateway. FedWatcher, RIP this guy. I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to call the general. I didn't need to call the FBI. Chase was doing it all for me. I saw movement in the background of the stream, behind the glass wall of the server room up on the executive floor. Preston was banging on the glass. He looked purple. He was screaming, but the soundproof glass muted him. He looked like a fish in a tank that was rapidly running out of oxygen. Chase didn't notice. Anyway, guys, we're gonna try to brute force the admin login. If anyone in chat knows how to crack a 4096-bit hash, drop a PogChamp in the chat. I closed the laptop. I couldn't watch anymore. It was like watching a man juggle hand grenades while riding a unicycle on a tightrope over a shark tank. I finished my coffee, went to my closet and picked out a suit, a nice one, navy blue, sharp blazer. I had a feeling I'd be needing it later. The phone rang again. It was Preston. I let it go to voicemail. Beep, Karen, pick up. The police are here, not the police. The military police. There's a tank in the parking lot. Karen, help us. I smiled. A tank. General Miller didn't mess around. I walked to the mirror and fixed my hair. I looked tired, but I looked sharp. Sorry, Preston. I said to the empty room. I'm afraid that's outside my scope of work. I didn't go to the site. I didn't need to. The news helicopters did the work for me. By 10 o'clock a.m., every local news station in Denver was circling the building. The headline on Channel 9 was, Military Activity at Tech Firm, Terror Threat. The footage showed a convoy of black SUVs and 2 armored personnel carriers blocking the main entrance. Men in full tactical gear, not private security, but legitimate MPs with federal patches were setting up a perimeter. I turned on the TV and watched. It was better than any movie. A reporter was standing by the road. We are seeing reports of a massive federal raid. Employees are being escorted out of the building with their hands on their heads. We have not received a statement from the company, but sources say this is related to a severe breach of government data. I saw David walking out. He wasn't handcuffed. He was talking to an officer, pointing at his phone. Good, he was showing the receipts. He was safe. Then the doors opened again. Preston came out. He was handcuffed. He was weeping. He looked like a man who had just realized that his MBA didn't cover high treason. Behind him came Brittany. She was screaming at the officers, probably demanding to speak to a manager. And then Chase. Chase wasn't walking. He was being dragged. His feet were scraping the pavement. His hoodie was torn. He had lost his sunglasses. He looked small. He looked like a child who had broken a vase and was now realizing the vase contained the ashes of a vengeful god. They shoved him into the back of a black SUV. My phone rang. It was General Miller. Karen, he said. His voice was calm, like he was ordering a sandwich. General, we have secured the facility. The threat has been neutralized. The idiot in the hoodie tried to tell my men that it was a social experiment. How did that go over? One of my sergeants broke his nose. Accidentally, of course. While assisting him into the vehicle, of course. We have a mess here, Karen. The kernel is corrupted. The encryption keys are fragmented. The hardware is physically damaged. Something about liquid nitrogen? I saw that on Twitch, I said. Right. Look, we need to bring the systems back online. We need to restore the handshake before the data degrades. But we can't do it without the original architect. That sounds like a difficult problem, I said, examining my nails. Karen, don't make me beg. I'm a general. I don't beg, I order. You can't order me, general. I'm a civilian. I'm unemployed. I'm currently looking into taking a pottery class. Miller chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. All right, how about this? I'm currently standing in the office of the former CEO. Nice view, terrible decor. I have the authority to appoint an interim federal administrator for this site. Full clearance, direct reporting line to the Pentagon. No corporate oversight, no chief of cyberculture, and the pay, GS-15 level, plus a contracting bonus that would make your eyes water. And the staff, you hire who you want, you fire who you want. If anyone says the word vibe, I give you permission to tase them. I looked at the TV. I saw the empty parking lot. I saw the wreckage of Preston's regime. I'll need a ride, I said. Chopper's already 5 minutes out. Pack a bag. I hung up. I walked to my safe. I opened it. I took out the binder. I walked out to my front yard. The wind was kicking up. In the distance, I heard the thwup 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 of rotors. A Black Hawk helicopter was crested the ridge, coming in low over the pines. My neighbors were going to hate this. I smiled. Landing a military helicopter in the parking lot of a corporate office park makes a statement. That statement is, playtime is over. I stepped out of the chopper, binder in hand. The wind whipped my hair, but I didn't care. A young lieutenant was waiting for me. He saluted. Ma'am, General Miller is waiting on the 10th floor. At ease, Lieutenant, I said. Let's go. We walked into the lobby. It was unrecognizable. The welcome desk was gone, replaced by a portable command post. Soldiers were checking IDs. The Vibe Lounge had been turned into a holding area for seized electronics. I took the elevator up. The smell of lavender was gone. It smelled like gun oil and ozone. I walked into Preston's old office. General Miller was sitting behind the glass desk, smoking a cigar. He didn't care about the smoke detectors. Karen, he said, nodding, you look rested. I got about 12 hours of retirement, General. It was nice. The system is locked tight, Miller said, gesturing to the screens. We can't get in without wiping the drives. I placed the black binder on the desk. You don't need to wipe them, you just need the handshake. I opened the binder to page 42. Lieutenant, get me a secure terminal. They brought me a laptop. I plugged it into the hard line. I opened the terminal. It felt good. The cursor blinked at me. Familiar friend, I typed in the override sequence. It was a 64-character string that I had memorized, but I kept it in the binder just in case I had a stroke. Enter authorization key. I reached into my pocket. I hadn't told Preston everything. I had turned in the spare token. The master token, the one issued to me by the NSA 10 years ago, never left my person. It was on my keychain, disguised as a garage door opener. I plugged it in. Access granted. Heartbeat restored. System unlock in 3, 2, 1. On the wall monitors, the red lights turned amber, then one by one flickered to green. The fans in the building spun down from jet engine to gentle hum. We're green, I said. Miller exhaled a plume of smoke. Good work. Now about the personnel. Where is David? I asked. Downstairs. We held him for debriefing. Release him. Give him a raise. Make him deputy director. Rehire everyone on the engineering team who didn't appear on that Twitch stream. Done. And the others? I asked. Preston, Chase, Brittany. Miller smiled, a cruel, jagged smile. They're in federal custody. Chase is facing charges under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, plus reckless endangerment of national security assets. He's going to be in a cell for a long time. No tick-tock in Leavenworth. And Preston, gross negligence. Fraud, breach of contract. Company is dissolved, Karen. We're seizing the assets. This is a government facility now. I walked to the window. I looked down at the parking lot. The news crews were still there. What about the culture department? I asked. Gone, Miller said. We don't need culture. We need encryption. I turned back to him. When do I start? You already started, Miller said. Clean up this mess, director. 6 months later, the office looks different now. The bean-bag chairs are gone. Collaboration pods have been replaced by rows of austere gray cubicles. The espresso machine is still there, but nobody uses the milk frother anymore. We drink it black. I sit in my office. It's 64 degrees. Perfect. The sign on the door says Director of Federal Data Operations. The company, the old brand, is dead. The stock went to zero about 3 hours after the raid. The shareholders sued Preston into oblivion. Last I heard, he sold his Tesla and is managing a car wash in Aurora. Brittany is trying to rebrand herself as a victim of corporate toxicity on a podcast. Nobody listens to it. And Chase took a plea deal. 5 years in federal prison, followed by a lifetime ban from touching any computer connected to the internet. I imagine the withdrawal from social media is hurting him more than the prison food. I walked down to the server floor. It was quiet. The B-flat drone was back. David was there checking a rack. He wore a tie now. Director, he said, nodding. How are the loads, David? Nominal. 99.999% uptime. Thermal variance is within 0.1%. Good. I walked through the rows of servers. The blue LEDs blinked in the darkness. It was a cathedral of data, silent, holy. I stopped at the rack where Chase had filmed his little video. The scorch marks from the liquid nitrogen were still faint on the floor tiles. We kept them there. A reminder that competence isn't flashy. It isn't viral. It doesn't get likes. Competence is boring. It's checking the logs. It's following the protocol. It's saying no when everyone else wants to say yes. People like Chase, they think the world runs on energy and vibes. They think if you believe hard enough, the gravity won't crush you. But I know the truth. World runs on servers. It runs on cables. It runs on people who sit in cold rooms and make sure the lights stay green. I put my hand on the server rack. It hummed against my palm. You're safe now, I whispered. I walked back to the elevator. I had a meeting with the Pentagon at 2:00 p.m. We were upgrading the encryption to quantum-resistant algorithms. It was going to be a headache. It was going to be tedious. It was going to be hard work. I couldn't wait. I swiped my badge. The light turned green. I stepped inside and the doors closed, sealing me in the beautiful, cold silence. Competence speaks louder than titles. Karen's meticulously designed systems didn't need her physically there to expose the absolute truth of who was qualified. Real integrity in your work always finds its moment, proving its worth when it matters most. Appreciate you all for sticking through this one. See you in the next story.